Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Torch. I'm Jake.
And I'm Kimberly. And we are very excited to have our very first guest of 2019 here today, Paulo Goes. Paulo Goes is currently the Dean of the Eller College of Management at the University of Arizona. Originally from Brazil, where he earned his first degree in engineering, he has pursued PhD studies and a career in information systems in the United States, which led him to the University of Arizona to head the top-ranked Management Information Systems Department. Paulo has worked on data science, information systems, and online economic systems from both the knowledge discovery and the education perspectives. We are very pleased to welcome him as our first guest of 2019 on The Torch. Welcome, Paulo.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're super excited to have you.
We're excited to have someone, a dean.
A dean.
We're going to go straight to the beginning. So you were born in Brazil, right?
That's correct, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Sure. I was born in Brazil, grew up in a middle-class family in the third largest city in Brazil. It's called Belo Horizonte. Not many people here have learned or have heard about it because it's not a touristic place. But it's a mining kind of a community industry. So I grew up there, and I went to high school in the 70s. So family, as I said, middle class. We're three brothers, one sister. My dad was a civil engineer. And growing up, I kind of went and spent a lot of time with him, construction sites. So that kind of defined what I wanted to do at the time professionally. In Brazil at that time, there were only three viable careers if you went to university. Either you become a medical doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. That's what your parents kept telling you.
No pressure.
No pressure. So I was good in math, and that was the major criterion for becoming an engineer. So I grew up in this city, but I always was fascinated with the world and international things. I started to learn English very early on when I was 9 or 10 years old. And I went to this institute that had a lot of ties with the U.S. And in the back of my mind, I always had this dream of coming to the U.S. one day, either to pursue additional education or to just travel. So it was a fun time. Brazil in the 70s, the country was growing fast. Some people talk about the Brazilian miracle at the time. A lot of big investments coming from outside Brazil to build big dams, a lot of construction opportunities. So it was a natural thing for me to go into civil engineering like my dad. And I finished college and stayed there for a couple of years.
Can you move to the area where you sort of came to the United States? What kind of brought you here?
Sure, yeah. So I finished my engineering degree, got a job with a reasonably large company. I went to the construction site, worked there for a couple of years. But what I really liked about that job was not actually going to the field and supervise the subcontractors. Or I liked the idea of planning and project management and the logistics. And at that time, I started to be exposed to computer systems, old mainframes and all those printouts. But I figured that this is very powerful, and I really fell in love with computers and technology. And I decided after 2.5 years to quit my job as an engineer. A lot of my friends said, "You're crazy, why are you doing this?" And I went from my home city, Belo Horizonte, I went to Rio and enrolled in a master's of science in industrial engineering. And over there, I had to work on my thesis and projects, but I got exposed to the academic world of research, of writing papers. I had to write a dissertation. And as it turned out, I got in touch with a visitor from the U.S., from the University of Rochester, who was spending a week down there visiting the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. And so I talked a lot with that professor. It's funny, in Brazil, that was early 80s, a lot of economic instability. And at one point in time, the university was on strike.
Oh.
The students were on strike, the faculty were on strike because of they wanted more revenues or more funds. So this guy was there, and then suddenly he didn't have anything to do, right? So I spent the entire week talking to this one person, and that really changed my perspective. And I ended up applying and was accepted by the University of Rochester in New York State.
Mm-hmm.
And then came for a PhD. But at that time, I shifted from engineering kind of a track. I went to a school of business, and I got my PhD in business administration.
So what was your first impression when you came to the United States? So that would have been in the 80s, and you landed in New York?
I landed, it was 1985. My destination was Rochester, upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to land first in New York City. And I had a friend who was working his PhD at NYU, so I decided to spend some time there.
Mm-hmm.
So my first impression of the U.S. was New York City.
Wow.
And that was amazing, right? Because you saw all the things in the movies and the TV shows, and then suddenly you're walking in Manhattan, Fifth Avenue, and living. It was incredible. Then I came to Rochester, very different from big city. It's a mid-sized city next to Lake Ontario, beautiful in the summer. Little did I know that the winters would be very hard and very snowy. But I spent 5 years of my life over there, and I had a good time. It was a great program. And within the business school, I specialized in information systems, which I was there from 85 to 1990. And that was days before the internet, but we could sense what was coming.
So it seems like early on, you said you recognized the power of information systems. What was the first time you sort of like connected how much impact computers would have on the world of business?
Well, I think with when the PCs, personal computers, came about, that's because before that it was all mainframes, right? You would interact with them through punch cards or through dumb terminals, and you had to wait for the processes to take place and get the printouts. I think when the PCs came about and that you have something in front of you that you can interact back and forth very easily, that's, I think, when I realized, look, this thing can really change the way we live and the way we do things. Forever. Then you had the networking revolution, where you start networking things together and communicating and local area networks, and from that point on, and then the internet came in the mid-90s, started to become popular, and then I realized, okay, I already loved the technology and loved what we could do. But being part of that roller coaster of one advance after the other, that's really, at least it's fascinating for me. That's what really, until today, that's what I find very exciting. The rate of change and how things can change and how they can impact our lives and society and the businesses and the economy. So that's how I got hooked.
So you were stuck in the snow in Rochester, although the summers were lovely. And this is how I'm imagining it in my head, so please correct me. You thought, I want to go someplace where you don't have to shovel snow, and so you landed in Tucson?
Well, there was a big time period before that, because I graduated in 1990, and my first job, and my wife is also from Brazil, we came together.
Okay.
And she told me, don't go anywhere that is colder than Rochester. So I actually had an offer to go to University of Wisconsin at Madison, and she said, no way. So I ended up going to the University of Connecticut, which was, I convinced her it was 5 degrees warmer and not as much snow, which was true. I think that the 4 seasons were more delineated than Rochester. Rochester used to joke they only had 2 seasons, the winter and the 4th of July. So, so Connecticut was a good time. I spent many years there. And at one point in time, I made my career over there from assistant professor to full professor, endowed chair. I knew a lot about the University of Arizona's MIS department, Management Information Systems, always top ranked. I knew the faculty there very well. And the research and the activities of that department, they aligned very well with what I enjoyed doing academically. They were looking for a department head. That was 2007. So 17 years went by. I was in Connecticut, right? So.
Oh wow!
And
you shoveled a lot of snow.
I shoveled a lot, but the progression was initially when you live in the country, in a place like that. You get excited, I'll shovel snow. Then after a couple of years, you buy a snow blower. Then after a couple of years, you pay someone to come and plow your driveway. So
it loses its novelty.
That's right, loses the novelty. But I was ready to move. And at that point in time, I thought where I was in my career, the administrative position as department head would be a good thing for me. And so I came down to Tucson, I interviewed, and then waited a couple of weeks, and they made me the offer to be department head. And my wife was jumping with excitement because she couldn't stand the cold weather anymore. So we landed here in 2008. That's when I started my job at the U of A.
Interesting time for business too, right?
Interesting time for business. If you remember, 2008 was the beginning of the big recession. And I took the job as department head, started it in July. And that first semester, a lot of budget cuts. The state pulled a lot of the support for higher education. And so I remember telling people I didn't sign up for this to as department head to be handling budget cuts, but we survived it. And at this point in time, I'm so happy that I made that decision. It's been almost 11 years.
Wow.
And now I'm dean, right, from department head. After 7 years, they were looking for a new dean, another search, and I applied, and I ended up getting the job.
So, Paulo, we see, and like I told you earlier, we're hearing up here in Phoenix some excellent marketing campaigns from the University of Arizona. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the programs and your approach in Phoenix, because as someone married into a Tucson family of Wildcats, although I do have my degree from the other Arizona University, I love the U of A. We love watching U of A basketball. It's a great university. It's such a huge part of the city of Tucson, too. And all of that being said, I'm super excited to see your guys' presence here in Phoenix. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing up here?
I'm glad that you like our advertisement efforts here and our visibility that we want to increase here in the Valley. I've been dean now for almost 3 years. And to me, business schools have to be close to business. You need to have that connection, especially with everything that's going on in the world, the speed of change. We talked about technology as being the driving force for that. We have to almost learn together with industry and work together with companies to really have an impact. So I'm a really real believer that's the way to go with higher education in business, creating experimental environments for us to work together. Experiential learning is always a big thing that I'd love to continue to do. But in addition to that, they have to be closer to where our employers are, people who are going to hire students, offer them internships. So with the premise that a business school has to be close to business, I look at the state of Arizona, and I think Phoenix and Maricopa County, that's where the activity is.
Mm-hmm.
I like to joke that population-wise, Tucson has 1 million people. The greater Phoenix has 5 million people. So it's 1 to 5 proportion.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of business intensity, I would say it's more like 1 to 100.
Wow.
So this is where I think as at the University of Arizona, we have to be here. I think there is room for ASU.
Mm-hmm.
There is room for the U of A. And I'm thankful that no other universities from outside the state are coming here yet.
Right.
But they are noticing because Phoenix is growing very fast. I hear 100,000 people a year that are added to the greater population of the Phoenix market. So to me, there is it's a no-brainer. The University of Arizona, the Eller College, our future goes through being more present here in Phoenix. It's better for our students, it's better for our faculty, and I think it's better for the business community as well to have another strong university here in the Valley. So we started our marketing campaign to make people aware that we're here, that we're serious about expanding here in Phoenix. We already had a couple of MBA programs that we teach out of the health sciences campus downtown, Van Buren and 7th.
Mm-hmm.
We have been teaching those programs for about 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In Phoenix?
We started with a leased location in Scottsdale.
Mm.
We offered them there, but then with the health sciences presence downtown, we thought we would take advantage of the campus and have the identity there.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea is to expand the programs that we offer here, expand those 2 MBA programs, attract more students to those, but also expand the array of programs that we offer here. Because we are in the healthcare sciences, the health sciences campus, not only because of that, but we, in our strategic plan for the Eller College, we identified healthcare and healthcare management as one strategic area for the College of Business. We think we have a niche there. Not many business schools are doing or investing in healthcare as an area. So, and then in Phoenix, we're already a part of the health sciences program. So we want to expand graduate programs, executive education, professional development programs around the area of healthcare management from the business perspective, the business of healthcare. That includes leadership, it includes healthcare innovation, it includes healthcare, tying to my original department, MIS, healthcare informatics and data science, data analytics, digital health. So these are huge areas for us, and I think the market in Phoenix is very open for us to be doing that. We have the partnership with Banner Health. Banner acquired our academic hospital down in Tucson and created this partnership with the University of Arizona. So many doors can be open in many different ways. So we want to be here offering and defining programs that we can run. The other area that is very dear to us is the area of entrepreneurship. We have an outstanding center for entrepreneurship. We call the McGuire Center of Entrepreneurship that we run out of the Eller College of Management. And entrepreneurship is the new dimension of business that we should be all pursuing. And I think there are many opportunities for us to offer programs related to entrepreneurship. So I think the sky's the limit here. You mentioned your commitment and loyalty to ASU. There is this rivalry coming from outside the state 10 years ago. You understand how deep that runs.
But it's mainly sports, though.
But that's where I think we should have. I think we can collaborate. We can do joint programs. And the market of higher education is large enough for, as I said, 2 big universities, and hopefully not more. But
Right.
but if you look at a city like Chicago or Philadelphia, they have 5 million people. Of course, they're more mature a city. But you have 10 to 15 business schools in each one of those cities, right? So the market should allow us to do our own thing and collaborate when we can. So, but this is, I think, the future for us to be more present here, which is a change or a departure from the traditional model of being in Tucson. But for a business school, I think we need to be thinking this way.
Makes sense.
It's better for the students, you know.
Better for the students, better for the state. I think we can find ways to keep more of the talent in Arizona, especially if you are partnering with the companies, with industry, and working together with them. So we capture the students while they're going through the program, through the internship, through the experiential projects, so that when they graduate, they see that they should be staying here.
And I have to say, as an aside, whoever is buying the billboards for Eller College of Management might need a raise or a bonus, because that is some of the most strategic, perfectly placed billboards you will ever see in probably the United States, where, you know, when you're driving into Yuma, Jake is from Yuma, there's one that says this is Wildcat or entering Wildcat country, and then there's the Eller one downtown on 7th Street.
Right.
There's some really strong marketing.
I'm glad to hear that. I will extend the kudos to my marketing team.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the future of business education? And you did just touch on your Center for Entrepreneurship. But at Eller, what are you guys doing to prepare the next generation of entrepreneurs, specifically at the graduate level?
Sure. We talked a little bit about the future of business. I just would like to take a step back and put in the context of the entire university. We have a new president, Dr. Robbins. And he came with great ideas. He really likes my plan for Phoenix. He's very big into the Phoenix market. But he made the entire university population or constituents think about what's the future of higher education. And we're framing the whole future of the university around this concept of the 4th industrial revolution, which is, if you think about the different waves of technology changes that kind of established these different revolutions, started with the steam power back in the 1800s. Then electricity changed a lot in the late 1800s. Then computer systems came in the mid of the 20th century. And now, so these are the 3 main revolutions that really changed the nature of work, the nature of business, and the economy. Now we are in an age where you have the digital forces moving very fast. You have the biotechnology and the biosciences moving very fast. And then you have the physical sciences also moving very fast. So, and they are all converging. They are converging through robotics, artificial intelligence, different energy technologies. And by the combination of the integration of the overlapping or the convergence of these big trends, the world is changing very fast. So the jobs that our kids are going to get, the freshmen who come to the U of A, they're going to be very different. They may not even be available now, that job description. So Robbins made us think about what are we going to do. At the same time, because I come from the digital technology area, that was the direction I was taking, the Eller College, to embrace the technology changes, leveraging the entrepreneurship program, the innovation that comes out of that, leveraging the MIS, the information systems, the data science aspect that we do, and creating this future for business education. But the two things that I want to point out is, number one, we talk about convergence of different technologies.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that means in terms of education is interdisciplinary. We need to be pairing up or mixing up business students with engineering students, with science students, with life science students, with medical students at the graduate level, as you mentioned, because they need to be working together. That diversity of backgrounds and understanding of the problems, and that will lead to where innovations come from. So interdisciplinary, it has to be a big focus of what we do in higher education, especially in business. The other piece is the rate of change. We talk about exponential changes because of these feedback loops that the technology advances and create applications that then change the underlying technology again. So the speed of change, it's very hard for us. If you think about the traditional way that we deliver higher education, you have someone who becomes an expert in a field, and they do the research, and then they write a textbook, and then you publish. Now it's online publishing, but then you take it to the classroom, and you deliver lectures, and you prescribe exercises, and you test students. That is kind of slow for what we need. So we need to be co-creating knowledge and co-consuming knowledge. That's why I think that partnership with industry and having students work on experiential projects, real projects, I think that's the future. So it's interdisciplinary, and it is partnerships. And this is what I think is the future of business education. This is what we are moving towards. We're going to have many more of what I'm calling innovation labs, where you have these spaces that are designed for innovation. You have a diverse group of student and faculty and business executives together, working on data science projects, on technology advancement projects, understanding the impact of different things. And that is what we really need to have. So here in the Phoenix area, because our proximity with the College of Medicine, we are working on developing a digital health type of innovation space where we test new diagnostics, but at the same time, the business students are going to learn the new innovation or the new technology solution, but with the mind of, is there a market for this? How would consumers accept this? What is the business model for that? And asking those questions while the products are being developed, they inform the design of the product. So I think this is the way we should be gearing our programs and our education. And going back to the entrepreneurship question that you asked, entrepreneurship to me is another way to frame business education. Traditionally, all the business schools who are currently that we think about, they traditionally follow a model from the 1950s and 60s, which is the corporate model. So we have people who specialize in accounting, people who specialize in marketing, people who specialize in operations and supply chain, and HR. So I have this big kind of compartments. Entrepreneurship is an area that we know that more and more, especially the younger students, they want to be doers. They want to be creators. And they are not thinking about spending their life in one corporation. That used to be the case, right? Even millennials who are now in the mid to upper 20s and early 30s, they are thinking about changing jobs every couple of years, right? And many of the, especially the Gen Z, they like to be controlling their destiny, and they like to be doers, they like to be contributors. So we have to be aware of that, and we have to provide them the opportunity to be trained and to get education and knowledge to be entrepreneurs and to be those doers that can create new ideas and new innovation. And the entrepreneurship program is a great example of how it is experiential because you start from one idea, work with teams, and you look at all the different aspects from the technical, from the feasibility of is there a market for this, what kind of acceptance we'll have, to can we make money out of this, the business model, the finances, the legal aspects, how to create a company, how to hire people, how to protect intellectual property. So all of those things, they are best taught through experience, through really delving into what they need to do and finding those answers. So entrepreneurship is a big part of what we do and what we want to do.
So from there, I want to pick up on something that you just said, Paulo, which was we talk about today's age. There's a lot of online learning. You might want to maybe talk a little bit about what Eller's doing in the online space. So we have massive online open courses. There's audiobooks. So if I'm someone who's a small business owner and I maybe never went to graduate school and I started building my small business, or I worked in a corporation for the last 10 years and now I'm interested in launching my business, what do you think is the importance of going back and getting that MBA versus just trying to self-teach while you start the business? Because I think there's some different trains of thought. So I'd love to hear what you believe the value is.
There are different trains of thought. And the other thing is different models work for different people. An MBA, a full-time MBA, is not for everyone because especially if you're working on a steady job or corporate job, you'll be leaving that job for 2 years, high investment, and then try to go back to the market. That works for a lot of people, especially those who want to switch careers. You have a job, but you're not quite sure that's what you want to do for life. Or you have an engineering job and you want to know more about business. Or you have some job or that you're not very happy with, then you want to launch your own company. So that could be an option for people who have the resources and the time, and they need that time to gather more skills and knowledge. And I think that's a viable alternative for that. Then there are people who are not really interested in leaving their jobs. They just want to improve their knowledge set and pick up a few things, maybe adjacent or different areas. We have a bunch of part-time programs, and that's where the online programs can be very helpful. You don't need to leave what you're doing, and you go and pick up things online. So there are the different dimensions. Hybrid programs are becoming more popular because, especially at the graduate level, I talk a lot to our MBA students, the evening students who they keep their day job and they go at night in the evening to take courses. And I ask, why don't you take it online? And many of them do it online, but many of them also miss that face-to-face interaction, not only with the faculty, but with their peers. And the online environment is very hard to replicate that. So some people, as I said, different options for different people. Some people are very happy with online. They can do it at their own time. But some people really enjoy the interaction. That's where you establish your network and relationships and go from there. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that we universities are very good of thinking that our product that we offer to the market is the degree, an MBA or a Master of Science or a Bachelor's. And that degree is a bundle of academic content, experiences, and at the end we just stamp that seal of approval. Now you can go and do whatever you want to do, right? But I think that we need to be thinking about a lot of the population, especially as things move fast, are not going to be interested in degrees anymore. It's more like skills and knowledge set. And that's already happening. If you go to, say, the Bay Area, many of the companies, the tech companies, they don't require degrees anymore. They just require the fact that, okay, you can code, you can analyze data, you can work with this technology stack, and that's what you're going to do. So that there will be a shift. I still think that degrees will be valued, but we as educators have to be thinking about
iteration
and these changes. You mentioned that the MOOCs, right, the massive online. That was it caused a big splash 5-6 years ago. And that was the first signal that people started to look at, well, things are going to really change because now I can take a course from Stanford University along with 100,000 of other people, and I can become good at this thing. But they were very splashy, but I don't think that's the solution. I think that it's not what the market demands. Attrition was very high. A lot of people started and very few finished. So we still need that closer engagement with the university or the professor that I think is going to be shaping the next wave of online education. We all kind of trying different things. We all trying to find what's the niche that we play well. Our MBA, online MBA, is the fastest growing MBA platform.
Wow.
We have 4 platforms, right? The full-time, evening, ESAC, and online. Online went from 0 to 300 students in about 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
So there is a market for that. But the question is, how can you keep that product different or distinctive from what everybody else is doing? And that involves, if you can crack that question of how can you provide online engagement, mentoring, face-to-face component, along with the online delivery, that's, I think,
the secret sauce.
The secret sauce.
It's 2019, which is hard to believe. I'm having a hard time remembering to say 2019 versus 2018.
Yep.
There are so many things in the business world that are moving at a very rapid pace, and you covered a few of those.
Right.
But what do you sense is maybe 1 or 2 of the trends that are coming up in 2019? It could be in business education, or it could just be in the business world.
Well, I think that the one big thing that is catching everybody's attention is artificial intelligence. And not many people really understand what that means. People think about the sci-fi movies, but that is going to change things, I believe, dramatically. But artificial intelligence goes together with another piece, which is the data. There is no artificial intelligence if you don't have lots of data, because most of the artificial intelligence relies on looking at the data, processing it, understanding the patterns, and then informing the algorithm or the software. So big data, data analytics, data science, you continue to play a big role. Associated with that, you have the concept of network science, because data is not static, right? Individuals, we have relationships, we relate. Entities have relationships with each other. So being able to look at the networks that you can form, where individuals are nodes of that network, and the relationships are the arcs between the nodes, and understanding how they form, how they evolve, the characteristics of that, plus the data that you associate with the different nodes and the different relationships, and then deploying algorithms that are going to make sense of that and find patterns, and so that you can predict things. So these are going to be things that are going to be very impactful. So, and the question is, how do you teach that in higher education, right? You, at this point in time, you have computer science departments, you have information systems types of departments where people look at those, how to develop those algorithms, how to create software that's based on AI principles, and then can be deployed in different types of applications like facial recognition or predictive models and things like that. So in a business environment, we have to make our students aware that they will be making decisions aided by those types of applications. And we need to start incorporating those principles and those knowledge components into the program.
Yeah. Making AI accessible seems like a really difficult challenge, because when people hear it, like you said, they think of like sci-fi movies.
That's right.
But it's part of our daily life, whether or not folks realize it or not. So it even can impact the small business owner, right, and how they're marketing or retargeting their consumers in the online space.
Absolutely. So I think you said it very well. Make it accessible, and making people understand the power and how to make decisions, how to utilize those AI software or components in their daily lives as a businessman. So I think that's what we need to do. As a business school or as a university or as an academic environment, we need to distill those things down to a level where people appreciate what can be done.
Absolutely.
A lot of talk about robots replacing the workforce, right? And AI replacing
the future of work.
The future work, and I believe that big changes will be there. It take a profession like accounting or auditing, which is a big part of accounting. A lot of that is processing data, right, and identifying patterns that maybe indicate different characteristics of firms and transactions. A lot of that can be automated. So there will be a shift from mundane and repetitive tasks to things more like management decisions, leadership. So which a couple of years ago, or even 3 years ago, people would say, we don't need to form MBAs anymore because there's no market for MBAs. People want the specialization. So there was a trend in many business schools to offer specialty masters versus MBAs. I think that that's the wrong approach, because with AI, with automation, with deployment of all these systems, we need more of the generalistic thinking. We need more of the general problem-solving thinkers.
And the actual management skills.
Management and leadership. So those are things that I think we'll need to keep pushing and educating our students with.
Because the next generation might be managing people and robots.
That's right, yeah. Managing both.
Yeah.
But you have to think that all these things, AI, robots, they will complement, and they're never going to be substituting, because there are many things that human brain will never be replaced.
We hope.
So the feelings, the sentiments, the empathy, the broader view of how things connect, because the way, the digital technology, it's based on bits and zeros and ones. It doesn't lend too much to these kind of uncertain environments. So where the human mind is very good at intuition or kind of making things, recognizing patterns. So
awesome.
But it's an interesting time. It's I think what we're going to see next 10 years will really be amazing.
Speaking of humans,
every show we have one question we like to ask, and if you could meet one of these humans, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Well, one person that, and I mean, again, I grew up in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
But I spent my entire adult life here in the U.S., so most of my adult life. I came here when I was 28. I always look at President Abraham Lincoln as someone that really, he was a big manager. I managed the country through a very critical times, and just making decisions when things are all in turmoil and very critical times.
It's probably one of the most consequential
one of the
presidents
most
we've ever had.
consequential presidents.
Mhm.
And then the other thing about him, he was so principled. He really believed in those principles. And I distill that into my own managerial life, right, which is I'm the dean of a college. You have different forces working. Sometimes you have to deal with controversial situations. You have to rely on strong principles. And so I think President Lincoln would be someone that it would be amazing to meet.
Even to just sit in an audience and listen to one of his speeches. He's an amazing writer.
Amazing writer, exactly. So
And orator.
I know, yeah.
Jake was actually reading me one of his speeches earlier.
Oh,
and
really?
It was very profound. It was
wow.
a piece of a speech I hadn't ever
Yeah.
heard. It wasn't the Gettysburg Address.
No, it was his Lyceum address. It was a portion of his Lyceum address, speaking about the fate of the country and it being in the hands of the people who represent the country, which is all of us, you know, rather than an outside force.
Right.
No, it's very powerful.
Yeah, very powerful and still very timely and extremely relevant.
So do you have any final piece of advice? We've covered so many topics, your life, your work at the U of A, what Eller is doing for the business community. Do you have a piece of inspiration or tip to leave us with?
As we're talking and engaging this great conversation here, in the back of my mind, I was thinking about my own journey. And I think at the end, it's all about sticking to what you believe in and making sure that you're making the world better around you. And that's what I try to do as dean.
Well, we're very glad to have you here at the Better Business Bureau.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
We here at The Torch would like to thank Dean Goes very much for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us as our first guest of 2019, and what a fantastic episode it turned out to be. This episode was kind of difficult for me because, when you're conducting an interview, you've got to be engaging and have an interesting conversation for the audience to listen to. But Paulo is so intelligent and articulate, I just kind of found myself engrossed in everything he was saying. Thankfully, Kimberly was there to keep the conversation going. I hope you learned a lot about the future of entrepreneurship and especially the new and exciting initiatives going on at the Eller College of Management. On that note, who do entrepreneurs turn to when they need their vision to be refueled, or where do they go for sparks of inspiration? Ignite, sparked by BBB, fuels entrepreneur growth, sales, impact, and success. Ignite also sparked The Torch, making it possible for our audience to hear such great content about the world of business and entrepreneurship. If you're interested in dropping in or reserving co-working space at Ignite sparked by BBB, please inquire at ignite@bbbcommunity.org or visit us at our Maricopa County campus in Central Phoenix. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please rate and review it anywhere you listen to podcasts. I want to remind you that if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or requests, you can send them to the Torch Podcast at bbbcommunity.org, and we will get back to you. See you next time, folks.